MG has been around, believe it or not, for 100 years. In 2005, they were acquired by a Chinese group. Then it changed hands in 2007 to SAIC Motors. In the Philippines, they are known exclusively as SAIC Motor Philippines ever since July of this year. Now, they've found great success in sales in the form of the ZS. And most recently, to our country anyway, they introduced a decently appointed but very affordable EV in the form of the MG4. Now, that's all well and good, but could this be the one? Well, technically speaking, it is the one, but one will not find out if this is truly the one if one doesn't take one out for a drive. Boy, I screwed up that intro, didn't I? Jeez. MG has a penchant for pricing their crossovers very well. For instance, when the ZS first came out, whoa, at that time, the price was fantastic. Whip out the AutoDeal app available on iOS and Android, and it will confirm that the standard version comes in at just under 1.3 million Philippine pesos, but this Lux variant comes in still well priced at 1,458,888 pesos. It's a crossover, no doubt, but with the way that it sits and looks, it kind of reminds me more of a Subaru Crosstrek. Now, Earl has taken a look at this car and he's seeing a little bit of a DBX in it, a little bit of an Urus. We have no idea what kind of medication the man is on, but it's probably either a blue pill and a red pill combined with an orange pill. I have no idea why. It already plants itself pretty wide, but the grille accentuates this even more with vertical slats that pulsate both away and toward the large MG badge in an off-body color. I almost feel bad that it has to be covered by the plate number. I think it looks really cool. The overall cuts and slats are true to MG's design language, which can be seen even on its EVs like the MG4. At its side is where you can really see how it looks quite different in the sense that it has a lower roof line than most crossovers, accentuated by the black roof and rails and the chrome around the windows, but still maintains a generous amount of ground clearance these vehicles are known for. Repeaters and cameras are on the side mirrors, and in front of the four-wheel disc brakes are satisfactory wheels that are impressively 19 inches large, wrapped in 50 Series Continentals. They're not exactly a cheat code, but it's close. Sans the spoiler, the rear, I dare say, reminds me of a wagon, with the well-angled rear window underlined by the tail lamps that wrap the edges and its wide stance. The off-color skid plate ties it neatly to the front grille, but I think the faux exhaust tips are a bit of an overkill and is giving Jack the heebie-jeebies. Oh, I love it when it does that. Underneath the hood of the one is a turbocharged 1.5-liter four-cylinder gasoline engine mated to a CVT that produces 168 horses and 275 Newton-meters of torque. Now, I would have liked a traditional automatic, but at least it's not a questionable or shoddy DCT. That CVT, however, helps a lot inside the city. Now, the traffic has been light, and I was able to get about 10.9 kilometers per liter inside the city. But realistically, you're looking at maybe anywhere between 9 to 10. On the highway, however, I was able to push it to 18.5 kilometers per liter. That's very good. I like that. Can we open, how do you open it? Oh, open this again! Open her up and it's 336 liters of space. Obviously, you maximize that when you remove the tonneau. With the tonneau here, you can't really fit a balikbayan box in. You can when you take it off with carry-on luggage as well. Easily to put in there with space to spare. When you fold the second row, you're looking at over 1,100 liters of space, exactly 1,120 if I'm not mistaken, which can fit easily 3 balikbayan boxes and your overnight carry, and this nifty little cart that Earl has gifted me. Thanks, Earl. Groceries will be awesome because of you from now on. Can I also get a credit card so I can charge my groceries to you? Do you have any idea how much my children eat? How much I eat, how much Jack eats? The rear of the one, what, no shades? Is very comfortable. First off, the seats are very, very soft. They're very giving. They're not firm at all, which I like. Thigh support could use a little bit more. I'm not a very tall person, so it's dangling already there. But other than that, the seating, the comfort of it is actually quite good. There is no center tunnel, as you can see. It's actually quite low, so a third passenger wouldn't be an issue. You have toys in the form of air vents here, two of them, one type A charging port, a center armrest with two cup holders and bottle holders on either door. Speaking of the doors, I'm gonna open this to let a little bit of light in. It may not have piano blacks on it, but this is sort of like a satin black. It may not be so scratchy magnet, but it is still fingerprint magnet. I wish they had maintained this brushed aluminum look kind of a thing. This I actually quite like. Would have been nice if they finished the rest of the door with it. Oh, and there's also pockets on the seats where you can put your cell phone in. That may not seem like a lot, but trust me, to anybody in the back, it's actually very, very helpful. Oh, sorry, headroom. Ta-da! Legroom. Ta-da! Kako singing. No! Step inside the business end of the MG1 and well, I guess like us, you will be a little bit intimidated. We're intimidated by cars because we step into a new car like twice a week. But like us, you'll be intimidated in the best of ways because here you've got a lot of screens. A 12.3-inch screen in front of you and then a 12.3-inch screen as your infotainment screen. I'm just gonna turn the air on because it's a little bit warm. That's too high. You have buttons on your steering wheel. Unfortunately, they don't have any markings on them, so it might take a while for you to get used to it. The buttons for the air controls are capacitive. They aren't physical buttons, but at least you can get to them immediately. You have a wireless charging pad. Now, the steering wheel has a flat top, which is similar to, Jack, you said this.
MG4.
It's similar to the MG4, yes, flat on top and flat on the bottom, which is a bit on the odd side, but then you understand why when you step inside the vehicle so that it doesn't impede anything that you're trying to see. Now, this car also has a few, they didn't have to's, but they did it anyway. One, this panel over here on the left-hand side, everything that used to be on the door when you're talking about your mirrors and your or your lights on your left-hand side now is out on this panel, a touchscreen panel. They didn't have to, but it's nice that it's there. They didn't have to, at this price point, a panoramic sunroof, but they did so. It's nice that it's there. I also like the fact that here, instead of ruffling through and trying to figure out the button on how to get into sport mode, which you might normally do, all you have to do is put this car into drive. And then when you want to go into sport, just click it again. Then when you want to go back to normal, just click it again. It's just that simple. I like that. However, there are also some things that, well, you did that, but you kind of missed out on a few things. Number one is the fact that the USB port is found down below. Now, it really isn't an issue, but for a driver as myself that I want to use Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, it's not wireless, it's wired, I gotta reach down and plug it in underneath. So that's a bit of a hassle. Second, there's also a lot of piano blacks around the car. Would have been better, like I said, if they kept this aluminum or satin finish all around the vehicle. Third, I've never seen actually a car where the hazard switch is not a physical button itself. I'm not saying this is bad, but it's just, maybe just something like an international standard would have been nice had they kept up that if it was just really a physical button. Oh, and also, this part might be nitpicking, but the sound that the buttons make for the air and whatnot, it kind of sounds like the air conditioning system of your house. Listen. Earl wanted to say it sounds like a microwave. He's not a very nice person. But it sounds like the air conditioning system for your house. I'm actually looking for a remote for the aircon. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just, I was just taken by it. pop, microwave popcorn. Pop, pop. Now, you may think that everything that I just spoke about is a bit on the trivial side. Yeah, I get that. But understand that we wouldn't be doing our jobs if we didn't tell you guys about this, because as a buyer, you would have to contend with this if you were the one to buy the one. You get me? Which is why we create all of these videos just for you guys. And if you would, please subscribe to our channel so we can keep these videos absolutely free. Much like the AutoDeal app, which is available on iOS and Android. Did you see that? You saw that, right?
Kako? So
You
that's
like-
where you were going.
I was going.
Wait lang. What's
What?
that?
What's what? Was my daughter inside the car recently?
Is that your daughter's or is that yours? It's okay. you
No,
can tell
wait a
us.
minute. I know who was driving this car before me.
Who?
Earl. What really surprised me getting into the car and driving, setting off and whatnot was the comfort of it. I expected something a little bit more enthusiastically firm. And because this car is on 19s, I expected road noise. The truth is, I'm not getting either of those. It's very well isolated and the ride is quite good. It handles bumps and potholes. Not like there's a lot here in this area, but it handles it very, very well. The CVT is something that I'd like to talk about for a bit because it's actually quite good inside the city. It accelerates quickly when needed, and there's not much of a rubber band effect when you're inside the city. However, on the highway, there is a bit of a lag. But it isn't from the transmission. It's actually from the turbo. The turbo spools, so it takes some time for it to spool properly too. So I realized that when I was driving at 50 kilometers per hour, and then I nailed the accelerator to get to 100 kilometers per hour as quickly as possible. There was quite a lag. However, I will say this, that once the turbo does sort itself out, voila, this thing's like, it's quick. What may need some getting used to, and one point that you really have no choice but to deal with it, are the buttons on the steering wheel, the camera, which is quite clear by the way, and the speakers. The speakers are nothing to rave about. The sound system, I wish could use really a boost. The cameras, quite clear, I like them. It's just that I noticed, not on reverse, but when you do put it in drive and you finish making your maneuver in reverse and you're getting out of parking lot, there's a bit of a glitch in the system. Sort of like the Matrix. Bzz, it does a fizzy-wizzy kind of a thing. Now, obviously, that can probably be fixed because it's just wiring, but it's just something that I thought that I'd mention. The other thing are the buttons and getting the controls of this down for the infotainment system. See, there is a button that controls both your audio and at the same time, the functions of your center console, or rather your instrument cluster. And to toggle between the two, you have to press a button to move from the infotainment to the center console, or rather your instrument cluster. That might be a bit of, well, like the turbo, a bit of a lag, try to get used to, because you want a dedicated button for one and or the other. However, I've only had this car for a little under a week, and I'm still gaining my confidence about it. I feel that if this were your car, I think in the same amount of time, that week's time, you'd have a lot more confidence in the system.
Hey, at least it's not capacitive touch the steering wheel.
It's not a capacitive touch
So
steering
it's like
wheel.
physical,
You're
but
absolutely
it's
right,
something
Jack.
you can get like muscle memory with eventually.
Jack, can I ask you a question though?
Yes.
How do you feel about this capacitive touch hazard signal button? I mean, don't you think that it should at least, enough playing with the sound, but don't you think that it should at least be a physical button?
I know it's like a nitpick, but honestly, a button would have been nice if they could have just situated it elsewhere.
Exactly.
I mean, capacitive touch, sometimes it's just really hard to get because like you want to hit the hazard as soon as you can.
As soon as you can, and something that can be easily found. If let's say, for example, it's dark and there's no lights, you can easily feel for it, kind of a thing.
Although there are lights, but it's like it's mainly just the feel.
Yeah.
I mean, the aircon is fine. It's not something critical at at certain points, but the hazard can be really important, especially like when you're the highway and then suddenly you have to hit the brake all of a sudden, and you have
Exactly.
to look for the hazard. Like,
What are you gonna? And then you
Yeah,
might end up turning off the aircon instead of actually turning the hazard on.
yeah,
Jack also asked me a very cool question. He said, dude, for this same price, would you get the HRV or would you get the MG1? And in my head, I was thinking, yeah, probably the HRV.
the
But then
NA.
Jack mentioned, yeah, that it is the NA at the same price. So in that regard, just on paper, and I need a refresher of the HRV, but truthfully, yeah, I might actually get this because it feels like there's a little bit more space in the rear, and the fact that there's a turbo in this makes the world of difference. There aren't a lot of, shall we say, this body shape out there with the equipment that you have and the power that you have. The closest would be the sense of the Chang'an Unity and the Chevy Track. Both of those cars are much more expensive than this particular one. The closest I think to get to this would be perhaps the Honda HRV, which Jack asked me about earlier. If I had a choice, would I pick this or the Honda HRV? It's not a black or white kind of a thing, a right or wrong answer. A yes or no is what I'm getting at, because the HRV's equipment inside, I feel, is a little bit more sorted, and the seats may not be as plush, but it feels really, really good. And the steering of a Honda is fantastic. In this, however, you get much more power. You get the turbo. Now, some will argue and say that the HRV does come with the turbo too, but you'd have to pony up a lot more to get the turbo. Get what I'm getting at? So it's a matter of whether you want interior refinement, including equipment, or you're looking for power. That's why it's not a very easy question to answer. If they could get a better set of speakers for the car and figure out a way to give some of the electronics a coconut smile to calm the hell down, I don't think there'd be much else you'd look for in the MG1. I mean, it's built well, it drives well, it's priced really well, and the fact that SAIC Motors is now directly in the Philippines, I figured that after sales will benefit in a really, really huge way.